What's up, everyone? It's Roger here from DisKingdom.com with Infinity and Beyond, episode number 105. And this week I am once again joined by James there in sleepy Washington, D.C.
Yeah, most of Washington's sleepy anyway.
So you had a good week there, James?
Yes, I had a good week. Mostly busy with work and reading comics and stuff, but so much Star Wars news this week.
Yes.
So much.
Yeah, it's been a big Star Wars news. Star Wars Celebration took place in the UK, and there's been tons of stuff going on. Luckily, I was able to go out there on the Friday, so was able to experience it. It's kind of a bit weird this time, sort of seeing all the news come out of the last day or two, but having seen all the pictures and stuff, they go, well, I was there, I know where that is, and it's kind of weird. I think having seen so many different events over the years, D23, San Diego Comic-Con, even the Toy Box Summit, where you're watching everything through live streams, and suddenly actually being there was quite a different experience for me, because we don't tend to get a lot of big events for that kind of thing over here. So it's kind of interesting sort of seeing it from the other foot.
Absolutely. I wish I had been there. I've been to some conventions in my day, but I have not been to a Star Wars Celebration. So
yeah, it was my kind of first kind of con really kind of thing, the first time I've really ever gone to one. So yeah, it was certainly an experience. Seeing everyone dressing around in their cosplay outfits, and you're standing there and suddenly like a load of stormtroopers and then the Imperial Force like walk by. It's a bit like what? And some of the costumes were really good, and some of them were a bit like, did you just make that up for your kids' project this morning?
Everyone tries, right?
Yeah, it does. I think it was just that thing of like the ones that are like, you could tell the homemade ones, and then when you see ones that look so professional, you were like, is that actually part of the show, or is that just, you can really sort of, there was a massive difference in some of them.
I have to wonder, because over here in some of the comic conventions, some of the big name celebrities will have like really cool costumes, with the full face mask, and so they can go out on the convention floor without getting recognized.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. So this week, as I said, loads and loads of Star Wars news coming out about lots of different games. Star Wars Battlefront, also the Trials on Tatooine, and an upcoming game as well from the other teams. And also we've got loads of Disney Infinity stuff news coming through, with information starting to creep out about what would have been coming. So we're going to talk about that after we've kind of gone through all the news and stuff. So this week, there's not been a huge amount of outsiders of Star Wars news. The big kind of Disney release of the week, there has been two. You had the Disney Art Academy released over here in Europe. I did get it through on Saturday. I will be honest, I haven't had a chance to play it because I also got Lego Dimensions on the same day, and I've only had one evening free this week. So that came out in Europe, and also you might want to check out Abe's review over on DisKingdom.com about that one there. And also Disney Emoji Blitz has come out finally globally, and a huge amount of fun. Have you had a chance to play Disney Emoji Blitz?
I did. I didn't realize it had come out, but I picked it up when I saw it on the Google store, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Who'd you pick as your starter?
I think I had just Mickey Mouse and Sully. I think I managed to pick up. I'll be honest, I picked this up off the Australian store a couple of months ago. So it's kind of really one of those weird things of, I think because of trying out some of these apps a bit early, sometimes it kind of feels a little bit like, well, yeah, but this is quite an old game now. I think, the way they do these like releases, I've released them slowly and then kind of pushing them out once they know if it works. They released it on World Emoji Day. I don't know if it has had that much of didn't seem to feel like it had much of a kick, a bit of a blast to get going. It feels like it was a bit of a slow burner.
I feel like there's not much incentive in the game to play, and I think people are kind of sensing that, and maybe it's not picking up that quickly as a result. Like like when I was playing it, I feel like you get credits too slowly, and so that, and there's no easy way to get new characters. So I feel like in a lot of free-to-play games, you have to have a constant stream of like new characters or abilities or whatever, and this game kind of doles it out very slowly. And I feel, the reviews are probably talking about that, and people maybe just haven't quite picked up on it as much.
because I actually find like it's a game there's a lot of it's a very fast game. It feels very
Yes.
fast. Because some of the like the move free ones can sometimes feel a little bit slow, but this one's very fast paced. I'm gonna be honest. The whole emoji thing for me is just something like I need happy face, smile, sad face. That's pretty much my entire emoji kind of sort of use, really.
I mean, when I was growing up, they were just called smiley faces. I don't
Yeah.
know what's we got a cat coming through.
Yeah, we got
So
the new.
yeah, and the thing, I guess, the main draw for the game is that as you unlock these characters and special features and such, you can use the emojis on your keyboard. But I mean, I don't use emojis, so.
No. It's kind of one of those things. I think it might. I'm wondering if it might pick up steam over the coming weeks. Unfortunately, I do feel that maybe there's been a little bit of another mobile game come out this last week that's really kind of just sapped every bit of press and attention from everybody. It's kind of been Pokemon Go has been a phenomenon, and I don't know whether or not that has just completely just wiped out like any kind of movement on any app trying to get any movement forward this week.
Yeah, whether or not we knew Pokemon Go was coming out, this is a terrible week to release anything. So
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I installed Pokemon when because it was one of those weird things that hadn't come out in Europe, in the UK, until a few days after the US. So my feed had already gone nuts. I'm sitting there, and it's a fun little game. I mean, I must be honest, don't fully get what everyone's doing all day long doing it. I would play it, walking to work and walking back to work, and maybe the fact that when I'm at work, I'm right on a Pokemon stop, it makes it a lot easier. So I'm just doing it. I mean, that makes life a bit easier.
Yeah, I think once there's more control for the players, like you can go out and choose people to battle, you can go out and trade your Pokemon, I think I'll understand it more. But right now it's collect the Pokemon, level up the Pokemon, and attack a gym. And if you don't feel like attacking a gym, then all you're doing is collecting Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing a little bit, but I do feel that maybe Emoji Blitz really was it got lost in the shuffle with everyone's just playing a different game, and maybe it will pick up over time. I still think with Disney Emoji Blitz that there's a opportunity for merchandise because that design work seems to be very, very well done.
Oh, the art style of Emoji Blitz is great. I love the way the characters appear in it. The animations are very cute. Definitely could see some marketing, especially we talked last week. You can go out and buy pillows of the other emojis and whatnot. Yeah. So definitely see these popping up in the Disney store.
I think this one might be a bit of a slow burner, pick up a bit of steam. And maybe when they do an event of some kind, it might help being able to give it a second boost. I don't really entirely sure if on Emoji Day the word really got out. I don't know. I just feel like I think that they had this great idea of having this like kicking them in with the keyboards and if people are starting to share that on Twitter and stuff, but everyone's just sharing Pokemon, so people just can't get through, and it's a shame because I do think it's a fun game. But then I can't help but feel that these sort of free to play games and the match free and win, they've been done to death, and I don't know if there's the excitement for these like the way they used to be.
Right, and as far as match 3 games go, it doesn't seem to add too much to the formula, and Disney's already got a couple of match 3 games of their own, so
yeah. I mean, even like the BFG came out, and it's exactly the same kind of game. So it's one of those things. Of the emoji stuff could be good if people are sharing it, but I feel they just got lost. They got lost with Pokemon. Just absolutely, when you're seeing the rampage going on in New York City Park, you're not going to get that over an emoji.
No. But we'll see. Like you said, I think it'll be a long-term thing. As new Disney movies come out, they'll start doing stuff for it. And Pokemon Go is going to kind of slow down a bit as the initial hype wears off. So
yeah. So it's definitely going to be an interesting thing. I think that might pick up a bit. It's kind of we don't know what apps are coming in the future from Disney Interactive. It's very kind of they do it slightly different with app releases than with console releases, where they kind of announce everything in ahead. But that's a good, fun game. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't already done so. Like I said, I think it's a fun game. Definitely worth checking out. It's free to play, so there's no excuse not to download it. Maybe just do it in between your Pokestops.
Yeah, absolutely. And and one of the advantages I feel is that there is not much of a push for you to spend money on the game. I don't feel like the game is constantly throwing at you, hey, spend money, buy hearts, buy money, buy whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't tend to find, and with those kind of games, I tend to play maybe for, if I only had 5 lives, I'll play 5 lives, stop, and then I'll jump into Zoom Zoom, and then I'll jump into Inside Out. So if I am having a session, that's how I will play anyway.
Right. So I think it works out pretty well.
Yeah, you do your, and I think was it on the Disney Magic Kingdoms, the Incredibles event has ended. I was trying to race for it at the end, trying to get Violet, but that didn't work. I was way behind. Because the only good thing is now I'm trying to catch up on the story and catch up with everybody else.
Yeah. Same thing happened to me, except I got Violet, and I was so close to getting Mr. Incredible. Like, I think if I'd had one more day, I would have gotten Mr. Incredible, but I didn't quite make it.
Well, they have said that they are going to be coming. They will be coming available sometime soon.
Right.
As much as they've been making. This was the only chance to get them. They have said that they are going to be coming. And let's be honest, they're not going to waste all that animation and just leave them out there. But they might leave them. They could be 6 months, could be a year. If they release them too quickly, it will kind of diminish the effect of an event. So it's kind of a counteraction of what they can do, isn't it?
Right, and actually, another Disney game, Marvel Avengers Academy, is seeing that happen right now, where they're just doing event after event after event, and it's getting to a fatigue point. And so,
yeah, I mean, and they introduced Spider-Man to Avengers Academy. I'm going to be honest, I haven't played that game since it came out. Kind of wasn't kind of the kind of game I like to play, really.
I think the actual gameplay is just kind of standard stuff. It's very similar to Disney Magic Kingdom, but Magic Kingdom does it better.
Yeah.
The draw for Avengers Academy is the dialogue and the story, but they haven't been working on that. They've been doing the events, and I got to be honest, I think I might be done with that game. They're so money hungry that it's clearly an event designed to milk its users for as much money as possible, and I'm just not going to support that.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like that with the Incredibles event on Disney Magic Kingdoms, that it was a bit of a push, because I ended up buying the Frozone pack. But then I did start thinking, well, I've been playing this for a couple of months. Sometimes like you said the other day, sometimes you pick up if you've been enjoying it, you might add an extra pack or do something and spend a little bit of money on it, because you've got to support the game. Because and sometimes if you think it's worth it, it's worth it. Very few oftentimes with mobile games will I purchase stuff because I don't have that need to, but it's like, Pokemon, I'm not going to spend any money on that game. That's nothing I'm ever going to spend a penny on. But, sometimes it depends what it is.
And I think, Frozone was definitely a premium character, and you can definitely see Magic Kingdom why they kind of pushed that. But that was only like $5 plus you got 120 gems alongside it or something like that. Yeah. So by comparison, Avengers Academy over the past 4 weeks has done the Spider-Man event. There have been 2 premium characters that have totaled up, if you bought both of them, I think to right about $20. You got no premium currency for them, and there's going to be at least 2 more premium characters in the next couple of weeks, which will probably total up to about the same amount of money.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, because it's like the whole thing about buying characters digitally. For me, a digital purchase has to be quite low. A character is a couple of bucks kind of thing. It's not that kind of thing of, you're not buying a Disney Infinity character for that price. It might sound weird, but now I look at that, like purchases like that and think, that's a Disney, if that's the price of a Disney Infinity character, and I'm getting the Disney Infinity character figure and the digital version, that's where I'm at with compare things now.
I mean, I think we are, as a culture, like UK, US, etc., that we're kind of looking at digital purchases that way now too, where what am I actually getting out of this? Well, I'm getting some digital code, and as soon as the game is offline, it's useless. At least with Infinity, like you were saying, we've got those cool figures. We can still put them on shelves, we can still show them off. But if Infinity had been digital only, the second the servers are off, your money's gone. Just evaporated.
I think that's the feel. I think with all game systems of moving over to this digital system of you're leasing, you're renting your space to play rather than purchasing a game. And I think that's a massive big changeover, and I think that's when these things start going offline, when people are investing money in, like even with Disney Magic Kingdoms, when you start buying characters, you're spending money on a game, and they're selling it to you as you're owning it. But then the minute that, like you say, with servers coming offline, it's a lot more tricky of how this all works.
And this is the future of gaming. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely that kind of. I think we're going to get used to it. It's going to change. We're going through a transitional period and stuff. And I think it's kind of nicely ties over to another kind of game, Marvel Heroes, which has added a new team up. You got the Ultimate Spider-Man, the Miles Morales team up is now available. That's become available. They've also been doing a buy one get one free on all the team ups, and they've also brought back the Advanced Pack, which is now available, which includes of all of this year's new characters, and you also get special, you get some of them, like the deluxe version included the Spider-Man team up, which is pretty cool. I mean, I find with team ups, they're good for me because I'm pretty low down in the game, so when they come in and help me out, they're a lot of help. It just helps me out. I mean, I did try out the Iron Spider suit and the Ultimate Spider-Man team up. I had the video, but we're catching up on the weekend after the Star Wars celebration. I will be putting it up later today. But it's a fun little one. I wouldn't say it's for me not one of my favorite team ups because he kind of runs off and does stuff and he looks too similar. I think he would have been cool as just a costume. But I don't know if you've had a chance to play as these guys.
Yes, I have, and I agree, Miles. He plays very similarly to the other Spider-Man team-ups we have. I think his ability set, there's only one or two abilities that are actually unique to him, which I mean kind of makes sense. It's Spider-Man, but I do like that they got the actor from the TV series to do the voice. So it is the same. His name's escaping me, but it is the same voice if you're familiar with him. So.
No, I find like the team ups. For me, they're just a nice bonus to add to the game. I think as far as like a digital purchase, and maybe a little bit overpriced for what they are, I would much rather spend my money on a new character or something I can actually play, I think.
Yeah, they're definitely overpriced. A lot of them come in at the same price as the characters, the playable characters. And the thing is, you don't really need more than one team up. You can have one team up assigned to every single one of your characters. And yeah, it's really more for flavor to have more than one. But there are a lot of options in the game, so that's good.
It's definitely, I must admit, I've been really enjoying that game. I play it once or twice a week. It's one of those things I'll sit down for like an hour or so and play it, and I'm just carrying on with the story, and I'll jump in and do bits and pieces. Kind of got a little bit distracted with Ultron kind of coming in right in the because I was like, I just brought the Steam sale set, and I got the Iron Man, and I was just like, I feel like I've got so many characters. Like I still haven't got one character right through the story yet, so I keep getting distracted by these new characters coming.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, and Ultron, of course, was one of the Advanced Pack characters. He's my favorite of the Advanced Pack so far, of the ones from this pack.
Yeah, no, I definitely think he's a lot better than Elektra, but I tend to like ranged attacks more. The kind of the more thing I tend to prefer myself.
I also like that you can play him as a summoner, so he's got his little Ultron bots that'll go out and do your work for you, which is always fun.
I did feel, I don't know if it was just me, but it felt like the first time I played it, you know, I had loads and loads of bots, and then the second time I played, I nerfed him because it was like 1 or 2 bots, and I'm like, this is not quite. He was a lot more powerful last week I played.
I think it depends on what powers you use, but he should be able to summon 6 bots at a time. It's just you have to do it each one individually.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember I just did something different, but I was like, he was a lot stronger last week.
It's entirely possible too. It is an online game. It is an MMO, so it does go through patches. So I mean, he legitimately could have been stronger last week and weaker this week.
I do like this. I do think this is just one thing with the games now of having events and weekly add-ons and stuff. It really does keep bringing you back into games. You know, I think like, you know, the days of just like having a game, you play it, and then you just leave it, and you might never return to it. You know, all these different events and stuff. I mean, I know there's been a lot of criticism for the Hitman new game, but I've loved this season. I've loved the fact that I have to wait a month between levels because it extends my experience over it. And I think you're definitely seeing that a lot more with games.
Right. Now, I haven't played the new Hitman, but I have heard about it, and I heard one of the cool little events they had recently was there was a bad guy who showed up in one of the old levels, like from the first week, I think it was, and he was only there for like 2 days, but you had those 2 days to plan out how to go and be a hitman and track him down and stuff, and then it was gone.
It's definitely this is kind of, I think we're moving into this kind of, you know, events, and you can see all the games companies, including Disney, Marvel, and all the rest of them, they are all jumping into trying to, you know, use these efficiently. You know, and I think, you know, obviously Disney Infinity used it with like the toy box, you know, the weekly challenges, but now it feels like it's picking up more and more, sort of just getting more and more of this kind of constant upgrading and constant character releases. I mean, in one way, the only other thing is it does feel like you don't get the full gaming experience till 6 months, a year after the game comes out.
I mean, there's that too, because if you went back and played Marvel Heroes when it released, it's a completely different game than it was back then, and it'd be very hard to recommend it even back then, but now it's a pretty good game.
Yeah. Right, so let's shift gears now. So let's have a look. Like I said, so that is all. I can't think of any other news non-Star Wars related yet from this week. So let's jump over to that one there now. Star Wars Celebration, which took place in the UK, they had a games panel, and they kind of were talking about Star Wars Battlefront. They were talking about Galaxy of Heroes. They're talking about the new game that's coming in 2018 that's yet untitled. They're also talking about Knights of the Old Republic. Oh, sorry, the Old Republic. Actually, on the booth floor itself, they had EA had a huge booth. They were really showing off Star Wars Battlefront. They must have had 30, 40 consoles set up to play. They had a little area for the Old Republic with maybe 5 stations. They had a big screen up. I mean, this was just in front of the Star Wars live stage where you had the AT-AT and the X-Wing that you could see on, probably, I don't know if you watched the live stream of what they were doing on StarWars.com, you know, from there. So it was kind of always very well packed because it was just ahead of the big props and the TV and the live screen where, you know, the guests were coming on and off. So it was always a kind of a busy area. They had that there. There was also a big Lego booth where you had Lego Force Awakens on show. You had, you know, got to have a selfie with Kylo Ren's Lego. They also had they even had a few little PlayStation area for the 4 PlayStation Classics that came out last year. So that was all kind of, you can tell the fact that they're using these kind of props from one to another. So there was definitely a very good video game presence. They also had the digital the digital cards. They had a stand there. They also had Galaxy of Heroes. They had an area set up in the booth as well. So there was a real big push on the Star Wars gaming. It was kind of cool. There was a long line to get on some of the stuff. I'm going to be honest, I didn't go and play anything at the store. Whereas I already have the B-Spin account. I already thought, well, I thought I've only got 6 hours. I really don't want to be spending an hour playing a game I can play at home. Didn't really see a lot of point on that one. But yeah, there was a lot of video game stuff on the floor, which I think was great.
I wish I had been there because There were a lot of very interesting announcements for the gaming side of Star Wars. The one that kind of surprised me is the only mobile presence was Galaxy of Heroes.
They did have I think they did have an announcement about Star Wars Commander. I haven't put it up on the site yet. But it was they again weren't on the main floor. They weren't. I don't think they were part of the main show, but they did put out I think they did like a live stream from the event. And like I said, there was also this Konami digital like top trumps kind of card collector thing as well. They were there as well. But yeah, like you said, Galaxy of Heroes kind of was the main EA point,
which is kind of interesting because their fan base is kind of rebelling at the moment. I was checking out their subreddit, and people are not happy with the raid system right now. So
yeah,
that they came in and announced a new raid, I don't think many people were impressed.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't really Galaxy of Heroes does not appeal to me. I've tried playing it. I don't like turn-based games. It's not. I just don't like that kind of gaming.
I'm a huge turn-based RPG fan, so this game would normally be up my alley. Plus, it's Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I don't know. I couldn't get into it. I haven't tried out the raid, so I can't speak to that. But apparently, people aren't happy.
Yeah, I used to play Star Wars Commander a lot. I used to play that maybe last year. I just stopped playing it. I know they've been adding lots and lots to it, and I came back in the other day and I realized I'd been out like for 3 months, and of course my rating and my coins have just been attacked. I'm just like, nah, delete, because I think that's the thing. There's so many apps, so many stuff drawing your attention, and I do wonder if like flavor of the month and the events and stuff, that's what you just do. What's like now, isn't it?
Yeah, and I had the same thing. I had installed not Commander but Galaxy of Heroes, and I played it for a bit when it launched, and then I reloaded it right before I joined this podcast last week, and I was like, okay, let's see what's going on. And I'm going through. I'm like, oh, there's no way I can catch up with what's going on in this game.
Yeah,
and yeah.
It's just insane the amount of stuff that's out there. So that was kind of the mobile side of things. They had on the main stage, they live streamed it where they had the people talking about the new video game that they're launching in 2018. They didn't really give a lot away. She kind of was a bit, you could sort of tell that she's sort of sitting there kind of saying, well, can't tell you anything. We don't really announce anything. We haven't got a name of it. I don't know why I'm here, but we need to be going dark soon because we keep sort of telling you stuff and giving you clips of concept art, but we don't really want to say anything. It was a bit, I don't know, that's how it came across to me.
I saw bits and pieces of that panel. She was the creative director on Uncharted series.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Now, I have not played Uncharted. I picked up Last of Us, which is by the same team, on the PSN sale this weekend. I have not played that. But both of those series, Last of Us and Uncharted, have great reviews. So I have to hope that they will bring that level of quality to Star Wars.
Yeah, I've played Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 in the collection that I got for Christmas. I'm waiting to play Uncharted 4. I'm planning to get that over the winter. It was this kind of thing, I think, it's like obviously with E3 and Star Wars Celebration, made sense to kind of say stuff about it. In some ways, hype these games up. I'm really hoping that we do get to see something a bit different from them. If EA have got so many different shooters on the go as well, it'd be nice to see if they go in a different direction with this one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't even speculate what it's going to be like yet. But there was that promo art for the completely different game, Star Wars 1313, a number of years ago, and that looked different. And this is kind of what I'm kind of visualizing for this, going off the Uncharted style. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I'd like it to be something like a bit like the Force Unleashed, that kind of platforming kind of game. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I picked them up on the Xbox sale when they went backwards compatible because I missed them the first. And I've been playing through the first one, some night, and it's just like I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a blast with it. I think it's kind of one of those weird things. These games get released on the Xbox One, of course, because I missed them. It's like, oh, I'll get that. It's on sale. And suddenly it's like you might as well, it's like you're playing a brand new game. It's just kind of like, oh, this is a lot of fun. Why did I not play this before?
I think Force Unleashed 1 and 2 got kind of a bad rap when they came out because I don't think they're very long games, and I think there's not really that much to do in them, but they're a lot of fun for what you get out of them.
Yeah. I think that was the difference. I think having only paid like £3 a game in the sale, for me, like a 10-hour story mode single player thing now is actually, for me, is the perfect game in my life now, where, you know, I want to play through a game, I want to complete it, and I want to be done with it, and I want to experience it and have a good story, but I also want to be able to play it and go. I don't, you know, 100, you know, like Witcher 3, great, but, you know, 100, 200-hour game, I haven't got time for this. I haven't got
yeah. I mean, Force Unleashed, it goes in, it tells its story. It's not a great story, but it's not a bad story. It's a fun story. You get to see some familiar Star Wars characters. You get to slaughter some stormtroopers, and it's good.
That's kind of this thing of like, I'll be one of those really weird things, but with Disney Infinity ending, I feel like this year for me, it's just about trying to catch up on some of the games I've got already, trying to catch up on some of the things I've been wanting to play. You know, it's like Force Unleashed, Kingdom Hearts, Lego Dimensions. Those are the ones I want to be playing for the rest of this year, just to catch up, because I think I was playing Infinity so much, I didn't get a chance to play some of the other stuff around.
Yeah, it's like you were saying earlier, you know, there's constant things going on in Infinity, or there were constant things going on in Infinity with the weekly challenges and stuff. And yeah, there wasn't much time to play other games.
Especially, I think for 2.0, I was in toy box mode, where I was building and like competing each week in the challenges. So I know, like, when I was playing 2.0, I was that whole year, the toy box just completely took up my entire gaming experience for like a year of just competing every week in the challenges. And building toy boxes was such a big thing, and how much time it used to soak up. Like I said, suddenly I remember going into 3.0, and there was a lot of new. By the time I gone through the playsets and stuff, I'm like, actually, and then other games were coming along, I feel like I'd burnt myself out after a year of doing toy box challenges.
Right, and I only did one toy box challenge. It was on 3.0. It was the Starfighter challenge, and I did it, and I went through, and I had another Disney Infinity fan, Model Train Man, helping me out with it, and it was a lot of fun, but I ended up putting in like 8 or 10 hours into just building it. And like, I can't dedicate that time to it every week.
Yeah, I think it's kind of going to be interesting to see, like with the toy box artists, because I know, like, they've been playing Overwatch, you know, Pokemon Go, you know, seeing on the Twitter, you know, I'm sure they are really finding that they've got a lot of different times in playing differently than they were when they were building toy boxes, you know, 20, 30 hours a week just building a toy box.
Oh yeah, if you follow some of their Twitter feeds, and I know you do, you can see some of them just kind of fill in the time with these.
Yeah. It's, and I feel like for me as well, it just feels like having chance to go. It's like literally last night, booted up Lego Dimensions. I was sat there for half an hour, 45 minutes, building the portal. I didn't really get a lot of game time done. I was sat there last night, pouring out the bags and build. I'm thinking, how old am I? I'm sitting here. I've just spent while at work running around chasing Pokemon, and now I'm sat here at night building Lego and following the on-screen instructions for how to build. I've built a Lego kit from an instruction manual since I was at high school. It's just like, and I go, because I just been wanting to play. I wanted to play it last year, but I knew I didn't have the time with it coming out the same 2 weeks within Infinity. So it's like, now I'm going, no, I want to play through the story and do it all. And this is exactly what we've been saying. I think, you know, with having different time now. Yeah.
And Dimensions, I forgot about the whole building aspect on that. I don't know if I got the time for that, but you know what? That sounds like you're making a good use of your life, actually, playing some Pokemon and Lego. That's not even sarcasm. That's some good stuff right there.
Yeah, it's kind of getting into it. So it's been a lot of fun. Going back to Star Wars Celebration, they had the Tatooine, also the Trials of Tatooine, which is a VR experience. They had it on display there. It's going to be coming available for Steam for free for people that have got the Vive set next week. I went to go on it and I had a queue, and I went back to it and I had a queue, and I went back a bit later and I had a queue, and then I got back and there wasn't a queue, and I said, "Oh, can I go in?" No, now all the spots are filled. I'm off. Like, because I'm desperate to try out VR. I was really hoping PlayStation VR, like the Battlefront, was going to be. It's like, I am not pre-ordering that thing until I've tried it. So next is going to be EGX. If it's not there, then I will be waiting until I see an in-store demonstration and stuff. But that's going to be coming out. I don't know if you've ever tried out VR or anything yet.
I've tried out the Samsung Galaxy VR. It's just a headset that you plug into your phone into, and it's kind of fun. But it came free with my phone as part of promotion, so I didn't actually buy it. But between Trials on Tatooine and the X-Wing pack for Battlefront that you mentioned, it's very hard to say no to VR at the moment, at least until you look at the price.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the fence with that one. I really want to see how it works and try it out myself. So I'm not going to pre-order it. I want to see. I've been tempted. We got two, because I wouldn't surprise me if Trials on Tatooine came to PlayStation VR as well. I can't imagine it's too much of a thing to flip it over.
No, I'm sure they're going to want to get it out to as many people as possible. And again, the PlayStation VR, say what you will about consoles versus PC, it's half the price of the HTC Vive. So, I mean, there's going to be more people who are going to have the PlayStation VR than the Vive.
Well, also for me, as well as I don't know if my PC is strong enough to handle it, and at least I know with a PlayStation, I plug it in, it will work. So there's always that kind of thing. They also announced some new details on Star Wars Battlefront. You had the Death Star expansion pack is going to be coming in September. You're going to get Boosk or Bosk, and also Chewbacca as playable heroes. A lot more space flight. There's going to be a trench run. That's all being added. That trailer looked good.
Yeah, that trailer definitely looked good. And as someone who loved the fighter combat in Battlefront, as minimal as it was a lot of fun. And to see the trench run and hopefully to see new objectives, new vehicles, I'm really looking forward to this. Now, I don't have the season pass, so I can't. I'll have to buy it at some point. But yeah, I want to see what they do with this.
Definitely kind of, I think it's like with Battlefront now, it's like you can pick up the game for like £12-15 brand new. It's really cheap. It's the season pass is the thing that hasn't really been discounted. But I'm gonna be honest, it's, and again, you got that pack coming. They're gonna have a new skirmish offline mode coming next week to the game. So I'll be jumping back in and playing that game again next week when that comes out. And obviously the Death Star stuff looks fun. And then they've announced Rogue One expansion pack. Hardly a big surprise when they said we're not announcing the 4th expansion pack, which will be coming out, later. It was like it wasn't really a no-brainer.
Right. And that's going to be great. It'll go well with the movie. Obviously we don't know much about it yet, but it also does confirm that we're not going to get Battlefront 2 in the near future, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I think they've said that Battlefront 2 is next year. So it wouldn't surprise me if that is like the full Christmas release for next year's main, because I do think EA are planning like one big console Star Wars game a year. Maybe it's Battlefront 2 next year. That the game that we were just talking about then, the serial one. Then they've also got that Respawn game that they're working on. So they've got like lots of games in development for one a year, or to sort of spread out the content, and they're working on it. It's good to know that there's lots of Star Wars content coming, but I'm loving the fact that they are tying into Rogue One. It fits in the time zone of the game as well, because obviously sort of those characters are going to be in the right time zone and stuff to do it.
Right, which is why we don't have the Force Awakens characters, because they said we don't want to have them mixing the timelines.
Yeah, and also they're going to be selling the Force Unleashed, or Force Force Awakens. The Force Awakens characters are all going to be coming in the next trilogy. And also I think as well with these expansion packs, they can almost now look at it. These are a 2-year game. When you're thinking of like, Rogue One coming out next year, that would have been a whole year ago from when that game first out, and they're still going to be making money off of Rogue One. And all the new updates. Some people could argue that maybe they should have had all that in the game at the first place when it came out. But, these expansions, that game is feeling very different to what it did a year ago.
Right. We were talking about it earlier with like Marvel Heroes. Battlefront is definitely an example of a game that has changed since it launched. And I would definitely be one of those people who would argue that a lot of the features we're getting now, like the skirmish mode and like the Death Star trench run, those should have been in the original game.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we're getting them now. So
Yeah, like I said, it's a different way of playing it, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. Star Wars Battlefront is definitely kind of their core game. I also feel like Star Wars celebrate way for them to get this news out. I think it was. I love the fact that the video game was its own panel on the main central stage. It was being given just as much, because I do feel sometimes video games get looked upon as a little bit like, oh well, it's video games. We don't need to, but it is just as big as a TV show or a movie now, and that's the way it should be.
Well, I mean, how many millions of copies did Battlefront sell? So, yeah, they kind of have to treat it as a major one.
Yeah, but it's good.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely all for them getting the spotlight on these games. I just wish Infinity hadn't been canceled, because what would we have gotten this year?
It would have. It's that kind of, because JV I think would manage to sneak in on the last day with his girlfriend, but it's definitely kind of like you say. It's I really had hoped that if that presentation had been on the day before, I would have been there in a heartbeat. I got to see the Mark Hamill presentation, but unfortunately that Rogue One ran out really quickly. But my flight was like 10 minutes after it was supposed to end, so I knew I had no chance to get out, run 20 minutes to the airport from the event to get to my flight home, which was then delayed half an hour, which I would have had enough time to have done it had I the flight that time. I'm sitting there going, if they had said this an hour ago, I would have known, or this morning, I would have been all right. I could have done the show. But it's definitely also, they've announced some new stuff coming to the Old Republic game. I don't know if you've ever played this one.
Yeah, I played a ton of it when it came out, and every once in a while I'll pick it up again. Like I did play some of the recent free expansions that they released for the Eternal Empire. It's never been able to keep my interest for long periods of time. I'll normally play it for a month and then I'm done. But yeah, this new expansion, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to play it. I'll play it for a month and I'll be done again.
Yeah. I mean, they've announced a new expansion pack coming in the winter, and they've announced the first chapter 3, which is perfect time for me to jump in. I have installed it. It's been updated 3 times. I still haven't actually got round to starting the app. It just time, and I might be, I don't know what it is. I'm just not very good at playing games on my PC. As much as I can, it's just something about me. I've tried, I'm doing a little bit of Marvel Heroes. I tried playing I picked up Castle of Illusion in the sale, and it looks great. But I don't know. It's just it's an odd thing for me.
I mean, everyone's got the way they play games, and none of them are wrong. There's something nice about the console. You just pick up the controller and you play.
Yeah, and also I think because I tend to listen to like podcasts and stuff while I'm doing it, I don't know. It's just kind of an odd way of doing it.
Yeah, but I mean, at the very least now, Old Republic is free to play too. So if you just have it installed, it's not like you're wasting any money on it. So
no. And it's kind of, it's again, they the fact it's been going for 5 years and doing these expansion packs, it's just maybe this kind of thing of, they've worked out a system and they're going to keep doing it and keep adding to it, and that is the Star Wars MMO that they are doing, and that's working, and it's got a massive following. It's installed by millions and millions of people, and it's still bringing in money, and they keep upgrading it, and that's how games are starting to feel. This is like, you almost feel like with Battlefront, that thing of, do they need Battlefront 2 if they just keep adding expansion packs? They might not necessarily need to have, and just, you change, you almost feel like the level games that they're doing it are changing, where the game can constantly evolve, keep changing, keep having updates, major thing, but you don't need to keep going out and redoing the same game over and over and over again.
Yeah, but EA is not going to do that, because if they can do that with Battlefront, then what are they going to do with their sports games that they pump out every year?
You just wait here and you go get them for a penny in the store afterwards. Right, so I think that is that was all of the Star Wars news from Star Wars Celebration, which is all over now. I'm going to be honest, very, very busy, very, very busy. It was a 25-30 minute wait just to get a pasty or a sandwich or something like that. It's so long, so busy, and there's been a lot of complaints I know on like my Twitter and Facebook of just people liking it. I mean, I enjoyed it, but the queues, there was too much waiting around, which meant that you couldn't get as much done as you wanted to do. I think that's always the problem with these kind of. I think all events like this are like it.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious because next year's in Orlando, and I'm wondering if they're going to see the same thing happen. I thought about getting some tickets, but I held off for pretty much this reason. But I don't know. We'll see what happens next year.
I mean, yeah. For me, I feel like had they had another presentation in the afternoon on the center stage, that I would have gone and seen that on there. Or if Rogue One had been an hour earlier, I personally would have got a chance to do it, and I might have felt a little bit different. But it's just one of those things. So right now, let's flip over now to a little bit more Disney Infinity ones. We're just gonna keep,
twisting the knife.
Keep twisting the knife. It keeps coming in every day. So we've had lots of reveals of new characters this week. We've had Elsa, Frozen, all the premium formats. We've had Elsa, Buzz, Darth Vader. Any others this week? Or was that it?
I think those were the 3 that came this week. I think Darth Vader might have been on Monday.
Yeah.
So.
What did you think of them?
I really like the Buzz one because if I remember correctly, it's got him using his jetpack.
Mm-hmm.
The Elsa one looks fantastic. The detail on it looked amazing. I don't know if that was just a mock-up or an actual physical production model, but it looked great. The dress looked fantastic and translucent and stuff. The Darth Vader one, I actually wasn't that impressed with.
No?
I think the mask. The mask was throwing me off. There was something weird about it.
Yeah, I know what you mean because the base I thought looked awesome, but his face just looked so long. It didn't look right. It didn't seem to. I don't know what it was. I know it didn't seem to look right at that angle.
Yeah, I would agree. The base looks cool, but I don't know. It felt like they were going for not quite an anime style, but in that direction, and I don't know. It was off-putting.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those weird things because I know there's these have been drip feeding out, and obviously there's been a little bit of people saying, well, why can't why don't they just release it all at once? Let's be honest, there's not a lot of Infinity news. Once this all comes out, that's going to be the end of it. So I don't have a problem, and it's these little reveals here and there. I don't know. Maybe there's this feeling now of some people just want to get the game, all this news out the way and put the game to rest and just go. And I don't know if that's how some people may be getting this 2 months later.
I think, at least personally for me, I'm looking at it and I'm kind of going, yeah, it's cool to see these things, these production concepts, these ideas, these things that we will never have. I'm just I don't need you to keep reminding me that I'm not going to have these cool things.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk this week. Basically, I think the end of their sort of the date, they've all now been released. There is no more, that whole studio is now gone down. They've all finished I think all of their, do not disclose any information. They've all expired and they've all been paid. They're all done now. And so we have been getting a lot of information coming out this week. That Thomas Estrada was on the Disney Infinity TV podcast this week. Definitely recommend you go listen to that on there. Really great interview. I mean, it was a good 2-hour show, and he really kind of gave a lot of ideas to what was going on with the show. Even over on the Toys to Games cast with Jason Quira, they were talking a little bit about some of the stuff that he's been told has been coming. I think we're going to be getting little bits and pieces, but I think the vast majority of it is kind of out there. But it's going to be interesting to see how much news comes out over the coming weeks of maybe people start kind of saying maybe what went wrong, maybe what's been going on, maybe not quite so fluffy.
Yeah, I think that's what we're headed for now is kind of maybe getting some of the employees to come out and say, hey, were there warning signs? Were there things that we could have done differently? Were there any hints that this was coming down? Not to us, not to the fans, but to people in the company.
Yeah, it's kind of because I think it's kind of funny because I think me and Abe, we'd been discussing in the months leading up to the game, before they announced it, where we were talking about how Abe even said it to this feels like the game's closing. He said it. He even said the fact he felt like it was, and we were having some discussions about how the next, and the way they've been communicating and stuff, things weren't right, things weren't working, things, and we were saying, things aren't working, things are going weird. Why are they closing off the mobile stuff? Why are they, we were talking about all this stuff way back like March, April, talking about things weren't right, things weren't working properly, things weren't happening, news wasn't getting out. And Abe even said it was like, it feels like the game was wrapping up. And obviously it wasn't in some respects, but this 3.5 territory, which they were basically, it was like a slow down experience. It's kind of, there was a lot of people saying stuff, but we hadn't put the two and two together until the actual end.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at it, there are a lot of things that we as a community could have read into. And I remember specifically for myself, when they announced that the Marvel Battleground set would only have one hero, but only be $5 cheaper than the two-person sets. I remember looking at that and going, oh, somebody's trying to make that bottom line look better. This is something we've got to keep an eye on. Although even with that in mind, I didn't expect it to happen nearly this fast.
No. It definitely is, like I said, some of the other things they were talking about, they were introducing this like Kingdoms approach of like having little episodes of story modes of like, there was some great concept between some initial concept art of like Mickey, Yoda, and Spider-Man working together on a story. I feel like, they were working on this stuff because they felt like the game, they were listening to the feedback from the fans of what people wanted. And I think that they were realizing the fans did not like this kind of, that's that, and that's that, and you aren't allowed to play together. And that wasn't what the game was initially built as.
Yeah, and then also I think, at least from the iHeart Infinity site, we used to get a lot of people talking about the fact that, the play sets didn't cross over between the versions of the game. And I think that finally the Infinity team was kind of coming around to that people were annoyed by that too. But
yeah, it's that kind of thing. And so much stuff happened with it that there was. It feels like they were making so many decisions on the fly of like trying to jump ahead that it kind of it's like apparently Black Widow was never on the cards to be in a character. It was only because of the sales of how strong this female character sold in 1.0 and how many girls were playing was when they added Black Widow. She was never apparently even going to be a playable character. They just didn't. They'd had it in their mindset when they were building it, because obviously it probably was in motion way before 1.0 got released. Black Widow was never apparently going to be a playable character because they didn't think it was going to be, and that explains maybe why 2.0 was so male focused, because they didn't know that the girls were going to play the game.
That would also probably explain why Black Widow is so similar in playstyle to Nick Fury. I mean, they were practically identical copies of each other.
Yeah. I must be. I never really. I think I played with her in the play set and did a couple of videos, and I never used her ever again.
She was very underpowered. She didn't have any distinctive abilities, and she had no reason to really use her outside of, I think she was a relatively easy character to get. So
yeah, it's kind of interesting. Some of the other stuff that came out from the discussion was, let's just have a quick look here. There was this idea of maybe some mini figures coming. It was only really concept art shown off of characters like Woody, Sully, Captain America, and they weren't like townspeople. They were different design, and apparently they were only in the concept art. They were even maybe going to be like little mini blind bags, or kind of like there was a concept of this kind of idea, and I'm sort of sitting there going, ooh, I'm really glad we didn't get that. I don't know. I don't like the idea of that.
It sounds like Sidekicks 2.0, really.
Yeah.
Because the Sidekicks were fun. They were a nice addition to 3.0, but I honestly think most people just forgot about them after the first week.
I lasted. I'm going to be honest. I never used Sidekicks the entire 2 games. I hated them. I couldn't stand the point of them. I never saw the need for them. So yeah, but these kind of minifigures, it's like, what really gets me is like, if they had gone with the idea of selling these as blind bags rather than power discs, like how bad that would have been.
Oh God, the power discs from 1.0 and 2.0 were bad enough. I hate buying stuff that I don't know what I'm getting. I hate buying RNG, as they call it in mobile games.
Yeah.
But hold on one second. I've got a cat running
Yeah,
across here.
we've got an invader. He's right on the screen. He's using my pace as just like something got rub against. It's like, there we go.
Yeah. All right. So he's yeah. So to buy these little mini guys or whatever they decide to do with them, I would not have been good with that. I would do what I do now with, like, say, those Lego minifigure blind bags, which is just I'll go on eBay and buy the ones that I want specifically, and I'm not wasting my time with stuff I don't know what I'm getting.
No, it's kind of some of the stuff that's coming out. The idea of having the story mode that was connected for 4.0 or whatever they were going to call it sounded great. That was exactly what the game needed to be. Lego and Skylanders were doing it, and that was a constant criticism for 1, 2, and 3. Was people wanted a one story mode with everything, and I think Disney had worked out the problem is they were having to sell it to companies within the company, and the idea that they were toys of toys rather than just straight up video games. I think that was how they were trying to get around it, because I think the other companies in the different sections were always going, no, Spider-Man can't play with Darth Vader. That doesn't happen in real life. But no, these are toys, and I think they didn't seem to get that across very well.
Right, but we did see them moving in the right direction, though. They were able to push Toy Box Takeover through, and the ability to use any character in that was fantastic. And from the sound of it, they did have like plans to expand that in 4.0 or next or whatever.
Yeah.
And for me, actually, that's probably one of the biggest losses, is not being able to play with Darth Vader and Spider-Man hanging out together or whatever.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I'm feeling like looking into the long version of video games at the minute. We're going back to this is this, and this is this. The Disney characters are all together, the Marvel characters are all together, and the Star Wars characters are all together, and they're not going to be intertwining. They're not going to be playing with each other. Magic Kingdoms, they could add, Star Wars. They could add a Star Wars land zone to it, but I don't know if they're ever going to do that.
Maybe when Star Wars Land or whatever it's called at Disney World opens, then there could be a precedent set for it. It's in the Magic Kingdom or Hollywood Studios, wherever it actually is, and they could say, all right, we can add the Star Wars characters now. But yeah, I'd be surprised if they did. It's
like like saying, well, okay, we're going to make a kart game. We're going to make just a simple kart game, and we're going to throw in all the characters from all the different places. I just can't see that happening the same way. That kind of creative side of things. I just can't see that happening again. Let's have a look and see what else. There were some other bits and pieces. Apparently Moana, she could, when she walked, that she could the water would part. And there was also some clips of some new sort of the waterworks of the boat moving and sort of waves and stuff that looked really cool. There was also like a storybook, and even they had maybe even the possibility of Jiminy Cricket doing the intro stuff to kind of force the story along and be like a narrator kind of thing.
Actually, that would have been pretty cool, getting Jiminy Cricket in. That would have kind of tied the game in a bit better. Nothing against the narrator they got for 1, 2, and 3. He was actually very good at what he did, but Jiminy Cricket, I mean, he is one of the iconic characters. So
it definitely feels like, there was a lot of discussion as well from him about how basically The Force Awakens, and what he was telling me basically summed up my entire thoughts on the playset. They didn't have a clue what they were doing. They didn't know what they were doing in terms of the story. They had very, very limited access to content. Apparently there was a room with footage in or pictures in that they had to go in with no technology. They were under surveillance the entire time, and they couldn't write anything down. Everything, they didn't have it. They were literally working on some of the designs days, weeks before the game came out. They, apparently Thomas had been designing Rey, and she was on the wrong. He was left-handed or right-handed, and he had to switch it because he was basing it off of him when he was designing it. And they had to switch it at the last minute when Lucasfilm said it. The whole final fight scene with Kylo Ren versus Rey, when the fact that he had his mask on, was simply the fact that they didn't know any of that part of the movie. it just, but then when you play the game, it felt like it was very much like, this doesn't seem like it is part of the movie. It makes so much sense now.
That final fight for Force Awakens in the game just made no sense. Even from just a logical perspective, it's just kind of like, what's going on here? I'm throwing explosive barrels at him, and he's like running around in circles or whatever. But it makes more sense having learned that now, that they were almost as restricted as we were for Force Awakens content.
But in some ways, it's like, this was the problem with it. And then, it's like, okay, it's like, well, they did so you could say, well, they did a good job with what they had. It's like, but then we were paying for this. We were paying money for this product. And that was the problem, is it didn't, I remember when I reviewed it and I played it, I'm going, I don't really, this doesn't feel right. It just didn't feel like it was a good play set. It didn't feel very good. Whereas with Finding Nemo, they had access to information and it was a better play set. Now, in some ways, they did something completely separate and they had a little bit more time to do it. But that Force Awakens playset suffered because they didn't have access. And, especially when you played like Lego Force Awakens, you can really see the difference between, that extra 6 months.
Yeah, and the fact that Lego Force Awakens came out, after the movie, so they could do exactly what they wanted. Plus, they had access to the stuff that wasn't filmed. The Lego Force Awakens. They had the stuff with Lor Santaka, the guy at the beginning of the film, and Poe Dameron and all that. So
it definitely, I kind of, in some ways, I look at that kind of thing, and and like Tom was saying about this kind of thing of like, well, they had, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's it's a reasonable excuse from what you guys are saying, from you guys working of how you're doing it, and it was. You restricted, and you guessed what was happening in the movie and had to recreate it, and it was kind of close to it. But then I look at it from the other thing as a paid customer. I'm thinking, the people, the players brought this. They paid for it. They were they've been so disexperienced in this thing, and they didn't deliver. And it's just one of those little nail on the heads of like, because for me, actually, the Force Awakens and then Battlegrounds were actually that wasn't set in a very good. Finding Dory, thankfully, was the exact opposite. But those two play sets were actually, for me, were not a very good trend of what was happening with the game.
Yeah, especially for Marvel Battlegrounds, I was extremely disappointed with that set. It was over in less than an hour. There was no real story to it, and the extras were meh.
Yeah.
So it's like. And also, as I mentioned earlier, this is the one where they take away one of the figures, where you're still paying over here $30, but you're only getting one figure on the playset as opposed to $35 and getting 2 figures. And it just felt like this isn't. I couldn't recommend it to people.
No, it was, and also you look at it back now, and it was very simple. This was right. We've got all these 2.0 figures to sell, and we need to sell them. So we're not going to. We don't want to release a load of Marvel characters because we want you to go out and buy all the ones that are already out. It's basically what that whole playset was, and it suffered. And I feel like, it's that kind of thing. For me, when I was hearing Thomas talking about what happened with Force, I wasn't sitting there thinking, "Oh, that's a nice experience." Like, no, this is what I said. This is what the problem was with it. You were so restricted from the top. It wasn't their fault. Wasn't there, But at the same time, they shouldn't have been trying to do what they were doing with it without that information.
It really sounds like for Force Awakens, they should have been working on a side story or something like that, But I mean, if you buy the Force Awakens playset, you want to play the Force Awakens. So. Yeah.
I think this whole thing of we've got the playset, we've got the game that experience. You can go, and even Thomas kept stating the game was never about the classics. It was never about it. It was never what the concept of the game was. It was always about plugging into the newest game to stop having sort of, essentially from their point of view, bad selling movie tie-in games. That's what the whole point of Infinity was about. The whole thing of adding in classic, when people were asking for the classic characters, that was never the point of the game. And that was, even he stated that again, that was the thing of the game, really.
Which is unfortunate. I know they never advertised it as you'll get to play as, you know, the 101 Dalmatians or Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella or whatever, but you can't put the Disney brand on it and not expect people to go, well, where's Snow White? So
Yeah. Well, apparently, Beauty and the Beast was going to be, Beast and Belle were going to be coming to the game this year, obviously with a new movie, but they were based on the live action version. Don't know if that was going to be a playset or something like that. That was said by the Toys to Games cast. Also, sort of the Pirates of the Caribbean 5 and Cars 3 were going to be coming. Don't know what would have been happening with Cars 3. I mean, that would have been a great idea just to maybe open that up to every car, or you don't, you know, again, that would have been a bit different, but would have been more racing.
I'm sure it would have been more racing, but it also would have been nice for them to have those Cars figures be useful again, because aside from the Cars playset and the Toy Box Speedway, there was really nothing to do with those figures.
No, I mean, it was kind of one of those weird things, because for me, actually, Lightning McQueen was one of my most used 1.0 characters, because I continued using him in 2.0 and 3.0 because he was just a great car to have for racing tracks. And I like using the character. I love the character. So, yeah, Holly, you might as well. I could rub the dust off because I don't think I've used her since the first playset. But he was a character I loved playing. And, you know, obviously they would have to redesign him because they could have resold him. But, you know, it definitely felt like that was a good way to go forward.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things like we're not going to get those anymore. And then the Pirates are the same way. Those are characters that would have been great to revisit.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, the only thing is, like, I keep thinking is, you know, there was a lot of stuff happening and they were adapting and they were changing. But I do have a feeling that there was a lot of pressure on them for making more money. And I do wonder, like, it's like this Finding Dory playset, and I do keep kind of thinking that thing of it. How much would that have sold better had that just been a standalone game? Maybe, obviously, with the Infinity, the damage had been done to the brand, but it's like you know. And I think that was the trouble. They were trying to build all these things in, and they made it too complicated with the 1.0, the 2.0, the 3.0s, and people didn't know what they were doing. People didn't want to buy. If you wanted to buy the Finding Dory game, you wanted to buy the Finding Dory game. You know, if they had like gone the Lego Dimensions route of having one solid game, it might have worked a bit better.
It might have. And then, you know, as a branch off of that, as poor as those tie-in games tend to be, going into the store and saying, oh, you want to play Finding Dory? Well, you also have to buy this over here, is a lot harder to sell to a soccer mom or whatever, when you could just say, well, but Finding Nemo's on the 3DS just as a little cartridge right there, and that's all I need.
Yeah. And also, it's that thing of like, and then the parent turns, because I remember I was being in the store and, you know, the parent go, no, you can't have that. I've already brought you Disney Infinity. And they go, but Mom, that's 3.0. And they go, no, I brought you that last year. And, you know, they didn't, you know, people were just like, the world's changed in terms of what people will buy. A kid, you know, parents and stuff might understand video games, but that constant drip of money would only go so far. And I do believe, and I honestly do think, that Lego Dimensions have got while that starter pack is silly priced, they have got an idea that could work in the long run. It might be the way that they will survive because they've tried to make things a little bit simpler. Yeah,
I mean, Disney Infinity, the biggest problem with Disney Infinity, in my opinion, was the lack of communication on compatibility. What works with 1.0, what works with 2.0, what works with 3.0. Hey, does this portal work on every system? No, that only works with the 360, etc. Those were questions I would be answering daily on iHeart Infinity in our help section. And they never ended. There were constant questions.
I mean, luckily, to be honest, we never really kind of had that kind of reaction in terms of like from the website. I think because we weren't necessarily the way that the site was built. Was, you know, I didn't go down the FAQ route because that was not what we were about. You know, and doing guides and stuff. It was, but you could see that kind of that constant thing, and you know, this thing of going into 4.0. I mean, I thought I think they were referring to this year as 3.5 of just adding content to it. And he even Thomas was saying he was never too sure what was 3.5 and what was 4. And it, you know, I do feel like they had so much potential, but you know, it just, again, I think Disney just looked at this and was looking at what Marvel and Star Wars were doing and thinking they're making more money with a lot less effort.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you can go, hey, Telltale Games or whoever, make us a Lego Star Wars game and make it sell a bunch of copies, and so they did. Whereas Infinity's a lot of work.
I mean, it's kind of one of those weird things. I mean, like I said, I feel like I don't think Toys to Life, as far as, I think there's always going to be scope for it. I think there's always going to be room for a Toys to Life franchise with Disney. Toys and games are interconnectable. They are going to say, but I do feel like I don't think we're ever going to see anything like Disney Infinity for a long time ever again. I think Lego Dimensions is the one that is going to be able to pick up the slack because they are toys, and you know they have got a way that they're going to be able to do that. But I can't help but think, you know, would a story pack for Force Awakens sell it as well as the Lego Force Awakens game as a standalone game? It's hard to know.
I mean, maybe we'll find out with Episode 8. I mean, maybe they'll have a level pack. Maybe it'll be like one of the main planets in whatever Episode 8 ends up being called. You get a couple of the characters, but then they also release the full Lego Episode 8 game. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, they did that with Jurassic World. You know, they released the main game and then they released like a level pack. But it's like I'm thinking like with Rogue One as a prime example, is like if you had the Rogue One game out this time next year, where they can do it properly, and then you have like you say, a little pack or a little I don't know whether or not the story, because apparently the Argos catalog came out over here and it showed off the Fantastic Beast box story pack, but the story pack now feels like the Infinity. That's how that feels now. It's feeling like that's how they've changed their direction, and I think now they've even got a better opportunity because they can now, if they can get in on this with Disney, they can jump in some other brands and do this in the future, and that's how it's going to live on. But you know, standalone games, I don't think we're going to be hearing a lot about Disney for a couple of years.
Well, I mean, especially if this Infinity decision was as abrupt as it sounds like it was, they didn't have much in the pipeline for games other than the Star Wars franchises and maybe the Spider-Man game for PS4. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting where it goes. I mean, I'm sure that over the next coming weeks, we're going to find out more and more as information starts coming out from, maybe unnamed sources of who's doing what. And it's definitely kind of an interesting thing with Disney Infinity. But it feels like the fever of what's been going on has changed. And I do think there's going to be a lot more, as more information comes out, you might start seeing people like me starting going, well, you know, because I do think sometimes they get put on like a pedestal that everything was right there, and I don't think everything was right, and I think that was the problem.
Well, it's sounding more and more like they were trying to develop Infinity with one hand time behind their back, you know, especially with the Star Wars set like you were talking about.
But I agree. I think this was the big problem, was this whole thing of dealing with each individual brand and having to go to Marvel and having to go to Star Wars and having to go to this creator and that creator and that. You know, everything was kind of off. I mean, apparently, Tom was saying, like with the Lone Ranger, they were having loads of discussion, they were going through it, and you know, they were really pushing that. And literally, they got told, "Oh, Frozen's coming out. Shall we throw a couple of figures in?" Yeah, but they didn't. You know, that they hadn't really planned for it, and they were just thrown in because the movie was coming out. They wasn't any. They thought the Lone Ranger was going to be the big hit, and Frozen they hadn't even given, by the sounds of it, a lot of thought to at all.
Well, like we talked about last week, it sounds like Disney isn't very good at predicting what's going to be a hit and what isn't going to be at the moment. So, I mean, the same thing happened with Zootopia. That turned out to be a huge hit, and all we got were some figures when they could have very easily made a playset out of that.
Yeah. It definitely, I mean, it's this kind of thing. I think going forward, you know, I'm thinking like over the last couple of years, like with Disney, you know, we've still been seeing like the 3DS games coming. We had the Tron Runner game. You know, there were still Disney games in development doing on other stuff. But I think that was the trouble, is everything was being pumped into Disney. And I think it's going to take a few years to get projects up and running. We don't know what's been going on, of what's been happening. You know, I am really hoping that all that stuff that had been planned for the next couple of years for Disney Infinity has been maybe, sent out information, and maybe some words going out about doing what other companies getting in on, jumping on some of those brands.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think honestly, we're going to see a lot of mobile games,
Yes.
lot of mobile games, because the turnaround time on those is super fast. So,
And
relatively speaking.
Yeah, and also I don't know if like the expectations are a lot less. They're a lot less on them. People don't expect that kind of, because you're not paying $30-$40 for them.
Yeah, like if they had released Emoji Blitz as even like a $10 or $15 game on like Xbox Live Arcade or something like that, I think people would have been like, why? I'm not spending $10 on a match 3 game, but you release it for free on a mobile game and maybe get a couple people to buy some currency packs. You can get your money back pretty quickly.
I do wonder, I still feel like, for me, this feels like, with this thing of like trying to put, on one hand, every game needs to be on the right platform for what it's trying to do. If you got it on the 3DS, don't try it. I think that was one of the problems with Infinity. They tried to put it on too many platforms, it didn't work. You can't help but feel like some of these games of, why they aren't on, they tried it with Frozen Freefall on the like PlayStation, Xbox, but there are certain games that actually sort of suddenly go, this could work if they made a few tweaks, but they're very much kind of like, Marvel Heroes is PC, and this game is a mobile and this game is a console, and everything's, and I don't know if that is maybe probably for the best, make the right game for the right device.
But they don't always get it right. Like there's a Star Wars game. It came out about a year ago, I think, called Uprising. And it's an action RPG kind of game, but it's on mobile devices, and it feels like the kind of game that you really want a controller for.
Yeah.
But it never made it past mobile, and I don't expect it will, and I don't know how it's sitting on the charts, so it's probably never going to get any new content.
I think I remember there's been a few little things, but again, that game doesn't seem to be, Star Wars Celebration, they did not push it. That feels like that game didn't hit the mark, didn't hit what they wanted to do, and that doesn't sound like it's being pushed.
No, there were no new mobile games at Celebration, right?
No. So, but then I also, be honest, I think Star Wars Celebration is a perfect example of when Disney should announce their stuff. D23, rather than like E3, great to put stuff out there, but then at least this week, all the game sites suddenly there's here's all this Star Wars content instead of E3 where everything's being pushed. San Diego Comic-Con. I know Marvel games are going to be there. I'm expecting to hear quite a bit about Marvel video games at San Diego Comic-Con. I think we're at that point now where you're going to start having drip feeds, and I do think Star Wars Celebration was the perfect time to talk about Star Wars games. But the only thing is, then it's like from E3 was everyone's going, well, where's all the information at E3? Well, they were holding it all back for Star Wars Celebration. They would have been better off just saying we are doing all the Star Wars stuff at Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, they probably should have just come out and said that. But something like the Star Wars Old Republic expansion pack, if you announce that at E3, it would just kind of get a little small byline, and people would be like, oh yeah, Star Wars The Old Republic, that's still going on. But here at Star Wars Celebration, you're going to get people who are going, oh wow, yeah, I still play that game. I'm looking forward to this.
I definitely think it was definitely the right idea to do that, but like I said, they might have been better off saying that, and like next year just turn around and go, we won't be announcing the Star Wars stuff, we're going to do it all at Star Wars Celebration, and then all the media sites will grab it then, and it gets more attention because everything's on Star Wars. But then it kind of goes the opposite way of there's too much Star Wars news coming out at once, so it doesn't, you got Rebels, you got Hands, too much coming out at once. It can kind of go the opposite way.
Oh man, Rebels. There was so much for Rebels.
I need to catch up on season 2. I've just got to get up on that one. I'm waiting for
Actually, this is not a gaming related thing, but I'm just going to hijack for this a second. The first Star Wars novel I ever read was Heir to the Empire, which is the introduction of Grand Admiral Thrawn by Timothy Zahn back in like the mid-90s. The fact that they announced Grand Admiral Thrawn joining the Rebels cast, at least for one season, and a new book with him, I was just like, I was a 10-year-old all over again. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, see, I don't know. So now I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. But then it's like they've got Maul in there as well. It's like I like the fact that they are like merging everything into one place.
Yeah, I like that they're using kind of Rebels as this testing ground for things that wouldn't really work in the movies. Like, you don't need Grand Admiral Thrawn in the movies, and Darth Maul would just confuse things because everyone just assumes he's dead.
Yeah.
But you can do it in Rebels, and I like that they're doing it.
Yeah, I like as well that they're kind of. I like that as that is the connection between the prequels and the original trilogy, and I also love the fact that they're selling the original characters to kids now because they're all going to go in. Well, I like Kylo Ren, but who's this old guy in Darth Vader? They don't know who he is. You're going to get that kind of connection with kids with Star Wars Rebels of Darth Vader being it and Rogue One. They're retelling those characters and reselling it. And kind of, I do like the fact that maybe with Darth Maul and stuff that being in it and stuff, taking a character that was massively underused in that trilogy.
Yeah, especially with how much hype he got back in Episode 1. They're like, Maul, he's gonna be worse than Vader. He's a better Sith, and like, yeah, sorry, he's only here for one movie.
Yeah,
bye guys.
It's all right. We've got Dracula. He's fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah. Oops. Oh well.
Yeah, it was one of those things. But I think on that note, that was all of this week's video game news and a little bit more sort of Star Wars stuff. Be sure, as per usual, to check us out over at patreon.com/DisKingdom for helping supporting this the podcast and the channels and stuff. Might have noticed a few differences stuff with the like I said, we've got James on now as our regular co-host. If you you can follow him on Twitter and stuff. So you want to tell everyone how they can follow you?
All right, on Twitter I am IHI_James. And I'm also on vagabondpeak.com. It's my blog site, and also my YouTube site. Somewhere I might have a Facebook. I don't know. Maybe. I think I had one at one point. That's about it.
Yeah, and you can also join our Facebook group, Infinity and Beyond, which is all about video games. There's a lot of Magic Kingdoms discussion at the minute. That kind of seems to be the main one. But look, as new stuff comes out, and as per usual, you can hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. You can hit that subscribe version on iOS. On if you listen to the podcast versions over there, and just check out DisKingdom.com for all your latest Disney video game news. And I think that's pretty much us done today.
Yeah, I'm pretty much all set. I'm going to go play some Emoji Blitz and then go back to sleep.
So on that note, thank you very much for watching. We shall see you guys soon, and to infinity and beyond.